Jedd Fisch jumping from Arizona to Washington is shocking, and it shows us what makes college football awful and what makes it great. This is an emergency Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday, everybody. It's a happy Sunday for some of you. Thanks for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Let's go in short. Jedd Fisch's move from Arizona to Washington, what it does for the Big 12. Well, first, for a team in Arizona that was going to return 18 of 22 starters, had won double-digit games, was in a position to possibly vie for the Big 12 title. That's not going to be the case any longer. Noah Fifita could make the move to Washington with him. T-Mac could make the move to Washington with Jedd Fisch as well, stripping the offense from what made it so good. It's defense. The defense in Arizona allowed less than 21 points per game, right at 21 points per game. What if that falls apart? Of those 18 starters, how many follow Jedd Fisch? How many are committed to Arizona? Can I be honest for a second? Most players don't commit to a school. They commit to the coaches that recruit them. Great example. A large majority of players who play at like a Florida or a Florida State, I say majority, a good portion come from the state of Texas. They didn't grow up Florida State fans. They didn't grow up Florida fans. I'd venture to say at least half the Arizona team didn't grow up Arizona fans. They don't consider any loyalty starting at birth to that school, to that program. They got recruited by Jedd Fisch. They built a relationship with Jedd Fisch to go to Arizona. Will it be? And you see it every time a coach moves. Every time a coach moves, you begin to see how the players are committed to that coach more so than they are that program. To me, I see where this many these stars, this many 18 out of 22 guys who are so good, points toward Arizona having maybe not even a mass exodus, but an exodus of guys that follow along with Jedd Fisch. Here's what's awful about this. Jedd Fisch just left Arizona high and dry. High and dry. The guy who built the program back up in 2 years, who was as good at Arizona as anybody's been in the last couple of decades, who had a beautiful trajectory and told us 2 weeks ago that he told us 2 weeks ago, said to Jim Rome that he was building a new contract and wanted to stay at Arizona, wanted to coach those 18 returning starters. And now, I mean, I don't want to say he lied. This isn't a childish move. He went to Washington. This is what happens. This is what players do now. They go to the portal. They have the same autonomy that coaches do. That's the great part of this, is that players can do the same thing in the portal. They go on to better opportunities. As for the Big 12, this takes out a contender. If you're an Arizona fan, you don't want to hear that. But right now, like if I had to build my power ranking, my way too early power ranking, Arizona drops a healthy amount for the shockwaves that this could send via the transfer portal. Losing a head coach that was so successful offensively and defensively. And maybe more than anything, when you're a program who was so bad, you bring in a guy that revives it basically like that. I mean, it wasn't overnight, but wow, it expedites the process of making Arizona good. And then he leaves before that culture is completely instilled. He leaves before a culture of winning is back. Who do you get? How do you bring a guy in that can take that momentum that was lightning in a bottle and keep it? It was miraculous what Jedd Fisch did. Who's another miracle crafter who you bring in to be the head coach to Arizona? I don't know if there is a candidate you could hire right now, January 14th, that's going to do that. That's going to keep it going the way that Jedd Fisch had it. That's dour. You don't want to hear that if you're an Arizona fan, but I've seen it too many times in college football. Coach leaves, players leave, good players leave. And then they try. Look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma the last 2 years has tried to recover from Lincoln Riley, who had gotten them really far. I mean, as far as Bob Stoops had, but he had them right there at where they needed to be. They had hit a plateau, and it was a pretty high plateau. You bring in Brent Venables, and he couldn't capture that. He hasn't been able to capture that yet. He's got one trip to the Alamo Bowl, and they lost that. And the other bowl, they went 6-7 in his first season. And that's Oklahoma. That's an established brand like Oklahoma. I don't know if Arizona can do that. I don't know if Arizona can capture, again, the lightning in a bottle for who the next guy is. This sucks. Coaches do it all the time. They've been able to do it all the time. They make business decisions. Does he care about Arizona? I'm sure he loved Arizona. I'm sure he loved it, but there was a better opportunity to him, and he took it. Bye. That sucks. This late in the game especially. I'm glad the transfer portal is the way that it is, because coaches can leave you high and dry any day to make a business decision to do something for themselves. Players should be able to do that too. If their coach can leave, which I don't want to say I don't want to say him leaving shows he doesn't care about his players. I wouldn't go that far either. People leave jobs all the time for better jobs. But I'm glad that players can do it too. And I know I'm saying like I'm not upset with Jedd Fisch, but this is just, it sucks. It sucks for me because I was excited to see what Arizona could do next season. I was really excited to see what Arizona could do next season. Maybe they're so good. Well, I'll hold out hope that the transfer portal doesn't completely ravage the program, but if it does, this stinks. Jedd Fisch is out. He's at Washington. They're going to win with him. I mean, I look, at this point, he's out of our conference. I don't deal with Jedd Fisch anymore. Dead fish. If he loses every game he coaches at Washington, that'd be great. I don't have to root for him anymore. He's not in our conference. You don't have to either if you don't want to. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk basketball. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.